These small little course corrections really make a difference because people become more effective in the process because of it. So I'll be brief about this. So I've had 3 great mentors in my life. 2 of them came from private equity management consulting, but the third one is an interesting one. His name is Marcus Buckingham, and I don't know if you've heard that name. He's a Brit. He's from London. Went to Oxford, and he was. And this isn't about necessarily tech right now, but it's about philosophy. He, you could say, he was the not father, but one of the major contributors to the strengths-based revolution. He worked for Gallup. He created a company called, created a product called StrengthsFinder that a lot of companies know globally. And it's all about trying to find somebody's strengths and incorporate their strengths into their everyday work. Not 100% of the time, but most of the time. So my philosophy is take a strength-based approach to the people who work for me, right? Get the most out of who they are. And what happens when you do that, people seem to do a lot better, and they become really fulfilled. They may not even know it. They're just like, gosh, that was a really good day. And well, it's because they're probably using their strengths. And it doesn't make a difference really what you do. We're talking about sales right now, but that's what happens. And then they have a tendency of producing more and making more money and then not leaving organizations. And then if you meld that with latest and greatest emerging technology, it's a pretty good combination. It's a winning combination. So I was fortunate before I came to Centeros with ADP, and I had some of the highest performing teams in ADP for almost 4 years with 0 turnover. And it wasn't because of me, which is unusual in enterprise software SaaS sales, right? It's really unusual. And it wasn't because of me, it's because of that philosophy from Marcus Buckingham that we incorporated. People were fulfilled. They didn't want to go anywhere, right? They're hitting their plan and they had autonomy. So that's my approach to that.
It's a really crucial point. You mentioned earlier about turnover. As we know in sales, turnover is it's very prevalent. Sales tenures are decreasing, in fact. So, want to hear a bit more about essentially like how you build using people's strengths into your sales org, like from identification to execution, and especially because we're all going after the same target here, driving revenue. And how does that add diversity into how you achieve that goal?
So that's a really complex question. It's a good one. All right. So, we kind of keep it very simple. So let's just say that if you know your strengths, your strengths profile, right? What I say is you try to bring that into every conversation. So I'll give you an example. I know my strengths profile, obviously, and it's not that you got strengths and weaknesses. It's just that you have certain things that make you feel strong and certain things that don't make you feel strong. That's as simple as that. All right. We don't necessarily say weaknesses. It's just, hey, you're a unique individual, and there's certain things that you do that make you unique, and nobody can quite do what you do. And if you can apply that strengths profile within sales, then you're going to do it just a lot better. Okay. So what I say to my people is, no, you got to know yourself, and you got to know your differentiators. And if you bring that to the table, like I'll give an example. Even though I know my strengths profile, before each conversation, and I coach this with my people, just think about that for a minute. Think about what's the very best you can bring out of a conversation, whether you're prospecting, whether you're in cycle, whether you're talking with an influencer, whether you're talking to an economic buyer. It doesn't, even if you're in a contract negotiation, take 5 seconds and think about it, right? And think about what you want to achieve from that meeting. And these small little course corrections really make a difference because people become more effective in the process because of it, right? They're thinking about the roadmap. Hey, I'm going to talk to Tom. It's a short conversation, but what do I want to get out of this conversation? How do I want to move this forward? And it's not necessarily about this. We're talking strengths, we're talking output now, but thinking about yourself and your contribution to it, right? So, everybody has their process. Everyone's going after the same thing. That's from an individual standpoint. From a market standpoint, you have to know what you're going after also. So without getting too technical, when we look at the marketplace, and hopefully this is going to answer your question, by the way. If it doesn't, you can stop me at any time. You've got a whole market. A rep's got a whole market, and I call that the TAM, the total addressable market, right? And everybody goes after their TAM, it seems like these days. And it's like, well, why? Most of your TAM, they don't care about you, your product or your service. Even if you gave them your product or service, they may give it right back to you because they don't know how to apply it, right? So you need to figure out something called your HLAM, your highly likely addressable market, right? And what that means is, hey, who's likely to buy from me and why? Whether it's an account, whether it's a vertical, whether it's persona, whether it's a need, right? Whether it's association. And every year that HLAM rotates, and it's typically about a third of somebody's geo. So know it and go after them, because that's smart selling, smart prospecting, smart closing. You're literally going after people that want to talk to you and companies that want to talk to you, right? Or should want to talk to you. So you merge those two together, and you've got really high performing individuals, which becomes very high performing teams, which turns into very high performing numbers. It's literally that simple, and I've been applying that for years and years because of these mentors that I've dealt with. So I don't know if that exactly answers your question, Tom, but that's my answer. How about that?
I like the answer. Really, then we assess our strengths as an individual, but also as a business company team.
That's kind of right.
Roll that up. Yeah.
That's kind of right. And if you use really, really smart tech like Kluster, which I love, then that just accelerates the process faster and faster and faster.
Yeah, awesome. Okay. I do have a question based on this, and it's about leadership and how you unlock those strengths, because it's more nuanced. We can't just tell a rep, do X, Y, Z. This works. We know this works. You should do this. It seems perhaps more complicated. So how do you deal with that complexity as a leader to make it work?
Oh, it's a great question. It's hard to do this without tech. And it's going to sound a little shocking. So let me tell you, if Tom goes and takes a strength profile, he's got a report of like 50 pages, right? So how's Tom going to apply that? It's really hard unless you put it in your back pocket, and wherever you go, you take your strength-based report and you're reading it. That's not real, right? It's not. You can't really apply that. So I actually use a platform. I use some tech that allows me to operationalize people's strengths. And I do that, which I know everybody's strengths profile. So if I worked with Tom, I would know Tom's strengths profile, and I have him check in with me every single week. And there's two questions. I've been studying leadership for a long time, sales leadership for a long time. A lot of failure, Tom, a little success. And you learn something in failure, right? And you learn something in success. But my approach, my tactical approach is, I want to know two things. And I know there's PhDs in leadership and organizational development and everything like that, but I kind of break it down to the simple little blocks. And it's, hey, I work with Tom, and I want to know every single week, what is Tom working on and how I can help? What is he working on and how I can help? And what I do is I look at Tom's strengths profile, and I get coaching intelligence. And I say, here, based on Tom's his profile, here's best how to lead Tom. It's a very simple thing based on what is he working on. Because as a leader, I'm here to serve. It's servant leadership, right? The team's not here for me. I'm here for the team, right? And if I know Tom's strength profile, and it's not hard to know, all right, I know how to engage him. For instance, my profile, I'm an influencer. So I like getting people to act, right? Your profile might be the opposite of that. It might be a teacher, all right, where you like getting the most out of other people. Well, if I come at you as an influencer, hard and heavy, right? Tom, let's go do this, and you don't have an explanation to it, I might get the opposite effect that I'm looking for. Well, that doesn't do you any good, doesn't do me any good. So I have to understand who you are and your strengths as a person and come at you, not with my strength profile, but with your strength profile. And if I do that very simply, Tom, what are you working on this week? And how can I help you? That's really what you want from me as a leader. So I've been doing that for years now, actually going back about 6 or 7 years. And I've been very fortunate that my people have responded to that. So does that make sense, or is that crazy?
No, that makes sense, right? We're meeting people where they live, rather than assessing where we think they should.
That's good. That's so good. That's exactly right.
Yeah. Okay. The interesting thing for me though is, do we ever get folks, salespeople, maybe even more junior ones who don't know their strength profile. They don't know what they're good at. They don't know how they like to be led. And is there ever a process we have to figure that out together? And what does it look like?
Yeah, it's just one of simple discovery, right? They got to take an assessment because there is some science involved, right? So once they, I had my strength profile a little bit later in my career, and I wish I had it when I was 18.
Yeah.
It's as simple as that. So as early as you catch somebody with their strength profile, the more they're going to, not just you're going to learn about them as a leader, which is critical, but the more they're going to learn about themselves. So you just take them through a process. That's all you do, right? In a very simple process, and then it's a constant connection, right? Checking in with them about that. And then after a couple of weeks, sometimes people adopt it immediately, like, oh my gosh, I never knew I was built this way, right? You know what I mean? And then they start applying their strengths immediately. Others take some time. They may take months to really understand it, but once you unlock it, there's kind of no going back at that time. So yeah, my recommendation is there's rarely ever a resistance, by the way. People rarely say, I don't want to know about myself. I don't want to know about what makes me unique, what makes me strong. I've never had that conversation. And if you have that, if that actually happens, then they're probably in the wrong industry, or they don't want to work.
Understood.
So,
Yeah. Understood. Yeah. So this is great. The final question I'd have for you, Gregory, is if you're in a room full of sales leaders, what would you ask them?
Ooh, that's a good one. I would want to know how they lead. It's simple. I know it's a simple question, but I would want to know how they lead without detail, without getting to a very detailed question, very, very open-ended, and hear the responses to that. Because there is a bit of a revolution that's been going on in leadership, right? Leadership has evolved. The science of leadership, it goes back to, thousands of years actually, but modern leadership goes really back to the end of the Second World War. And a lot of people don't know that. It comes out of the military side, being so impactful on the lives. And anyway, the Second World War is where the science started coming out of it. And it's evolved now for 80 years. And it's pretty evolved and advanced. But every time there's another revolution in terms of leadership, it always comes back to home, right? And I would want to know that, hey, exactly how do people what's their approach on leadership, and who has really simplified it? That's really what it comes down to. When I say come back to home, it comes back to the simplification, right? You're there for the individual. They're not there for you. And how are you unlocking their strengths? And how are you leading them forward with coaching? Not feedback, but coaching, strength-based coaching. And I'm curious how many leaders would actually, I would get that response from how many leaders? Because still you have, at least in the US, you still have a lot of leaders that want to lead by, hey, I know what's best for the team. And this is my approach. So everybody, and I call it the peanut butter effect, right? You spread peanut butter out there on everything, right? I'm going to coach everybody. I'm going to lead everybody the way that I think needs to be led. And then unfortunately, you have, those individuals fall off because they're not responding to that. The block leadership, the one mentality. So anyway, I would want to know how many people actually break it down and look at their people as individuals. I don't know. Yeah. I don't know what I would get there. Hopefully, a lot of them would be like servant leadership, right?
Yeah.
Look at the individual and the individual strengths and help them, but I'm not so sure.
Yeah. There might be a difference between how people internalize servant leadership and actually execute on it, because it's challenging. That's exactly way to lead. Yeah.
It sounds nice and sexy to say that you do it.
Yeah.
But how many actually apply it every day?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But anyway, the world's changing, and it's changing for the better, and people are getting smarter, and leaders are getting better. That a lot of leadership and sales came out of, hey, I was a really high performing rep.
Yeah.
I did really, really good, and now somebody said, oh, you must be a great leader because of that, or you'll be a great leader because of that, with any coaching intelligence or any formalized training. And so much of sales leadership are those individuals. And do they deserve it? Of course, everybody deserves a shot. You know what I mean? But how many are really good leaders and have taken the time, to say, I want to master my craft, right? Because I'm leading others and I have a responsibility and a duty to those others, right, to lead them. So anyway, it's an interesting time right now.